All right, it's time for the exit showdown. I'm going to talk about 5 different ways to exit your business. Now, each of these different strategies you take have both pros and cons, and I'm going to cover both of them today, as well as some considerations you're going to want to have when determining which is the right path for you. Now, as you look at your exit strategy, it's important to start to think about this in as far advance as possible. Many of these strategies have different types of tax implications, estate planning implications. And so it's important to kind of take a look at these strategies way ahead of time. So the first strategy is passing the business down within family. Number 2 is doing an ESOP. Number 3 is selling to a private equity firm. Number 4 is selling to a strategic buyer. And number 5 is selling to key employees. So I'm going to walk through each of these separately and kind of talk through, like I mentioned, the pros and the cons and some considerations that you would want to think about. So starting with family, when you're looking to pass down your business to your family, that generally is the ultimate dream for most business owners. You've built your business, you'd love to see it carry on, and that legacy continue to that next generation. That being said, it's extremely difficult as it relates to seeing that business be as successful as when you owned it and when you built it. So there are some important steps that you want to take to make sure that that actually happens and that business continues its success. But I'm going to start with the pros of doing the family succession. Number 1 is it's probably going to be the easiest path for you. Generally speaking, you can set up some very simple contracts to basically sell the company to the next generation. Number 2 is that there are some tax benefits to that. So by doing it to family, you're able to structure the sale as you wish. So whether you want the majority of those funds up front or where you want them spread over a period of time, that option is given to you, and that's where the tax planning comes into play. Because you could structure your settlement or your sale to match the ability to pay the least amount of taxes when you go this route. Some of the challenges with passing your business down to family is, as I mentioned, the business may not and probably will not run as well as it did with you at the helm. So as you look at this as a strategy, it's extremely important that you take the opportunity to build some type of development program or career path for your kids if they are the ones taking over the business. Having them operate in multiple different roles within the company, everything from especially being out front, leading the sales team, to operations, understanding the financials of the business, and being able to see things from a strategic point of view. Those are all areas that you want to make sure that you have that next generation fully understand and be at that point where they are fully capable of running the business. The other risk that you run, which is typically a hidden risk, is that if you have multiple children and you have some that are involved in the business and some that are not, there may be an issue with as it relates to estate planning down the line. There's a big difference between being fair and being equal. In some cases, you may have 1 or 2 of your kids that want to be involved in the business, and so as a result, you sell the business to them, or you have it in your estate plan that that business will pass to them once you pass. While you may have 1 or 2 other kids that are not interested in the business. And there may be that issue where the business, which will most likely be the most valuable asset in your estate, goes to 2 of the kids and the other 2 feel like they weren't treated fairly. So as I mentioned, that's definitely a huge risk to passing it down within family. So we're going to step to the next one, which is an ESOP. Now, ESOPs can be very beneficial. In fact, there are a lot of companies right now, especially in the construction industry, that are taking advantage of these. However, it's important to understand, once again, that not everything is free. There's a cost that comes to these benefits. So we will start with the benefits first. What an ESOP allows you to do is it allows you to sell a portion or all of your company to your employees. So the benefit to you as an owner is you're able to take some chips off the table. And in some cases, you may be able to do it and not pay any capital gains tax on that amount of money that you take from the ESOP sale. In addition to that, a provides a great benefit for your employees because they now have personal ownership within the company. So by them having personal ownership within the company, you have higher retention rates. It's easier to attract top talent. And so it's a great tool to incentivize your employees to want to do an even better job for your company because they are now shareholders. Those are the positives. The challenges that come with ESOPs, I would say not necessarily negatives, but challenges that will come with ESOPs is that they are very complex. They are generally needing multiple advisors involved in the process, everything from bankers to advisory firms to third-party valuation firms. So it can be very complex. And because there are so many people involved, the cost is also higher. So when you look at doing an ESOP, it is not uncommon to find the total cost being in the six figures. The other challenge with this is that you are paying these funds as you go along, even though you're not seeing the benefits right away. And a lot of times the ESOPs can take anywhere from 6 to 9 to 12 months. So the challenges, not necessarily the negatives, but the challenges of an ESOP are that it can be very complex, it can be costly, and it can take time. So things to consider when you're doing an ESOP. Next down the list is private equity. And I'm sure many of you have heard very good stories about private equity. You've also probably heard some horror stories about private equity. So let me break this down for you. Generally speaking, private equity firms are looking to acquire companies that they feel have the ability to scale and be able to grow and grow and grow. They're generally not looking for companies that have your typical just steady cash flow where they've hit kind of a peak, they've hit a ceiling, and it's pretty much more like a cash cow. In most cases, they're looking for those companies that have hit a point where they can grow, but they can't grow any further because they don't have the proper ability to scale. In this case, private equity firms see this as a huge opportunity to come in, inject some capital, inject some knowledge to allow that company to flourish and take it to a whole nother level. That being said, it's also a great way for you to, very similar to the ESOP, in some cases, take some chips off the table and then have another what they call bite at the apple. So the idea behind private equity firms is they're generally not a buy and hold type of firm. They generally will buy the company, they will make the improvements, get the company to where they feel it is even at a higher valuation, and they will turn around and sell it again. When they sell it again, generally speaking, you will get some rollover equity, and from that sale, you get additional proceeds. So it can be very beneficial to you as it relates to getting some cash up front today and then having the opportunity to have an even higher liquidity event if the company is built successfully and exited successfully. Now, here's a horror story. Not all private equity firms are built the same. You may have private equity firms that come in and don't understand your business, and as a result, just like any other stock you would invest in the stock market, the company doesn't do well and maybe it goes out of business and you lose that portion of your compensation package from the sale of the company. In addition to that, you now become somewhat of the silent boss. In most cases, the private equity firm is going to want you to stay on for at least 3 years to have some continuity with the operations and have that smooth handoff, during which time it's a very strong possibility that you're not the one making the calls and you're just there to kind of be the face of the company. So a lot of decisions that are made are now pulled out of your hands and are being made by the private equity firms. That being said, this can hamstring you also when it comes to achieving certain earnouts. And then earnouts are another portion of compensation packages that you get when you deal with a private equity firm. So when you do a sell to private equity, you're typically looking at 3 different types of compensation components. You're looking at one, which is the cash at close. Number 2, you're looking at the earnout, so staying on board and hitting certain milestones. And then number 3 is the rollover equity. It's your investment in that private equity firm prior to it selling again. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to private equity. It can be both positive as well as negative. Some considerations to take when you are looking at this as an option is 1, your employees, because this will impact your employees fairly significantly. Number two is you want to look at your legacy. You want to make sure that you feel very comfortable that the brand and the legacy that you worked so hard to build will continue on with the support of this private equity firm. So in a lot of cases, you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you as it relates to the sale. Moving on down the line, we have strategic buyers. Now, strategic buyers are going to be either your competition or other businesses where you would be a complementary business to other services that they may have. I'll use mechanical, electrical, and plumbing companies. So, for example, you may have a plumbing company that is doing extremely well and sees an opportunity to add an HVAC company underneath their umbrella. They're not competitors, but it's an additional service that can be provided that's very attractive for a company that can share those clients and offer them multiple services, not just one. So when you're working with a strategic buyer, the pros are you're generally going to get the highest offer on the table because these companies know that this is immediate cash flow that they're getting right on the start of day one. Number two, there's usually some good synergies there that they can, overlap and be able to come in and have one seamless transition. On the flip side, strategic buyers can be very similar to a private equity firm in a sense that they may not understand your business fully, and they may come in and the strategy that they have for their business may work for them, but it may not work for your business. So there is that risk of the company not doing as well and potentially having a hit on your overall legacy. In addition to that, while there are a lot of opportunity to have synergies, when it comes to a system standpoint, chances are you're not operating on the same systems. When you do have to combine those systems, there can be a lot of costly confusion, customer impact. That can get very messy as well. But a strategic buyer is a great option, especially if you're in the marketplace and you know your competitors very well. It's always good to just have those conversations out there with potential people that are in the same industry that would be interested in expanding their company by acquiring yours. So that's a strategic buyer. We're going to round this out with key employees. So when you look at key employees, these are employees that have generally been with you and have helped you build the company. So they maybe started since the very beginning. They've grown up with the company. They've watched you. They've served in multiple different positions with the company. And the fact of the matter is that maybe the business can't operate without them. And so these are great ways for you to turn around and pay them back in a very positive way for all their hard work and effort by allowing them to acquire the company from you. Very similar to when you're passing this down to family, you control the structure. So you can determine how you want them to acquire the company. You can make it very tax efficient, and you can also make it easy on them as well as the business. This is another great option. The challenge, very similar to some of the other options I gave you when you sell to a third party. Those key employees may be doing well now, but when they do take ownership and they are at the helm by themselves, it may not work out. They may not be able to take on that full responsibility. So hence, you may have success in selling it to them, but over a period of time, things may not go so well, and that can impact the actual business itself. In addition to that, when you are doing this, you are in most cases doing some type of installment sale. So you're not getting all of that money paid up front. You're getting that money paid over a period of time. So if those key employees, once again, don't operate the business profitably and the business goes down, you're not getting paid. So that's a potential negative consequence to that. So considerations, walk through these fairly fast. When you're looking at family, you want to ask yourself two questions. Number one is, do your kids even want the business? Number one. Number two is, can they run the business? Two very important questions. I'll even give you one third one, and this is going to be pretty consistent across all these different strategies, is the amount of money that you'll get going to be enough to fulfill your lifestyle the way that you want to have it over that period of time, and then also leave you the legacy that you desire. So that's family succession. ESOP, you want to consider the fact that can you withstand that long, complex time frame, the large amount of money that's up front. But then in addition to that, one thing I didn't mention is that Doing an ESOP, there's generally a loan involved, and that loan needs to be paid back by the company. That can put some additional pressure on cash flow. So that's another area that you want to make sure is that your business can cash flow at a very healthy rate to be able to go down that path. The other thing you want to consider as well is, do you want to be completely out of the business, or do you want to still have some type of role within the company? With an ESOP, you have some flexibility there, but for the most part, at that point, you become somewhat of a silent partner within the company. As you look at private equity firms, it really just comes down to the amount of ownership you want to have in the company post exit. If you're in the camp of, I'm done, I just want to sell it and I want to move on, that could be a good option for you. Keep in mind, you'll still most likely have to hang around for about 3 years for a smooth transition. But if you're in a situation where it's not necessarily important for you to be involved in the day-to-day decisions, again, private equity is going to give you a fairly decent dollar amount for the sale, but there are going to be some strings attached as it relates to the 3 components I mentioned earlier. Strategic buyer, same thing. You want to consider, are you looking at an opportunity? Are you interested in selling your business to a competitor? Is it something that is top of mind for you? Are you concerned about your employees? Because once again, when you're getting acquired by a third party, there's a lot up in the air in terms of what could potentially happen with your employees. And then also, how important is your legacy to you? Are you willing to put that in the hands of somebody else? And then last but not least, key employees. So key considerations on that is, do you have the right people in place? Do they have the ability to run the business? Not necessarily be in the business, but actually run or work on the business. They're 2 very different things. You can be a great employee working in the business, or you can be a great owner where you're working on the business, more in a strategic capacity. So those are the different 5 exit strategies. I'd love to hear your thoughts on which one you think is the best overall, and then which one is best for you. So drop your votes in the comments, and hopefully this video was helpful to you and you got some value out of it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to walk through your specific situation and help guide you on what options would be the best for you.